Greetings and salutations, everyone. I do hope everyone is still doing well. Welcome to tonight's second bonus. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's second bonus, shall we? All right, folks, about a year ago, I had a subscriber and his son reach out to me and share some very just wild experiences and information out of Gila National Forest. Now, I got an email today from Bob, which is the father, that he and his son, JR, will be coming on the show sometime in the beginning of next week. Maybe Sunday I'll do the interview and have it out Monday. I'm not sure. But I want to kind of reintroduce or introduce you guys to JR's experiences in Gila, and also Bob being a resident of that area, Silver City, for the majority of his life. He has heard a lot of very strange experiences as well. So let's get into those right now. So I get this email. Actually, I got two emails from two different subs last night. And this one email said, Victor, New Mexico, help. So I opened it, and there's a phone number, and the guy just said, I've got a lot to share. I need to talk to Victor. I heard that he was in New Mexico. I'm just paraphrasing. Please call me. As of late, I've got about 30 people I need to call. With everything going on, I just can't concentrate that much. So I've probably made about 7 calls when I'd normally be calling people every day. I did call this guy, and he's got quite the experience. It's horrific, and I'm going to share it with you right now. He goes by Junior. His dad is named Robert. His name's Robert, but they call him Junior. And he's 31 years old. He's 6'4", 190 pounds. He calls himself a beanpole with biceps. He's a very active rock climber, hiker. He doesn't lift weights. He just is very active outdoors. He lives in Silver City, New Mexico, which has a population of about 11,000 people. And he was out hiking just recently in an area called the Gila National Forest. Now, This is a place that he has gone all of the time. He also, I'll get to that in a moment. He has grown up there, you know. He's lived in Silver City his entire life. He spent the majority of his, teenage years hiking, rock climbing out there. There's a lot of rock outcroppings out there, and so on and so forth. So on this particular day, he went out hiking. He was going out to the Gila National Forest. Where he goes is on Route 15, right outside of Our Lady of Guadalupe Benedictine Monastery. And it's going northeast on 15. And it's in an area, he parks in this area called the Gila Cliff Dwelling National Monument. And then he hikes out into the national forest. He's done it all his life. It's something that he's done by himself with friends. When he goes rock climbing, he always goes with friends. When he goes by himself, he packs light, but he packs smart. He for some reason leaves his phone in his car, but he said that he carries it's a Garmin. A Garmin InReach, which is almost like a satellite communication device, tracking device, GPS map. He said it's about a $400 piece of equipment that he, carries with him whenever he goes out in his backpack. He keeps a flare gun with him as well. Whenever he goes out, he notifies his family, hey, I'm going out here. This is where I'm going to be. And not for cryptids. That's the key thing. It's not because of cryptids. It's because of in case he gets hurt, which is really smart. He carries, like I said, the flare gun, this Garmin InReach, which I looked into it, and I think I'm going to purchase one because it's literally an all-in-one GPS, like tracker, everything. Excuse me. So, and of course, water, power bars, a fixed blade knife. He does not carry a firearm. He does not like firearms. He's going to be carrying a firearm. As of late, he's recently bought a pistol and a rifle. So on this day, he goes out, parks, and starts his hike. From where he parks his car, it's about a 5-mile hike. So he got up early in that day, drove out and started hiking. It was still cold when he hit the trails to go out to where he was going. He said it was like 50 degrees when he started. And, of course, it gradually warms up to 90. So he's out there just enjoying his day. And he had any kind of inkling of anything going wrong. He said that, he's watched my channel. Actually, he said he used to watch like creepypasta channels. Well, I don't really want to say the names because I don't want to act like I'm targeting any channels because I'm not. but he listened to creepypasta channels, Swamp Dweller, the Dread Family, a couple other channels. Eventually he found Dark Waters through Swamp Dweller, and through Dark Waters found my channel. He's familiar with David Politis, this, and that. He reached out to me. He said, I reached out to you because of you going to where Tom Mezek goes by yourself. He said, I think that's cool. Not smart, but cool. So very similar. He can relate to me in what I do. And he's just hiking, you know. He's probably, 1:30? And he's in this area that is called Diablo Range in Granite Peak in the Gila National Forest. He's in between this area. He sits down, has a power bar, has some water, just kind of taking in all the beauty of the park and really just appreciating where his, you know, he says that he's hiked, you know, all over the country, and he appreciates where he lives the most every time he goes out here, because it's just this beauty. And I can, you know, I can respect that. I understand. Like, I live in the Adirondacks, just like many of you. When you guys go to your state parks or, you know, national parks that are in your state, you really get a new sense of beauty for your area, you know? So he's planning on, you know, what I'm going to do. Am I going to head back out? Am I going to stay for a little bit? Because it's, you know, it's 1:30. He's been hiking for about 4.5 hours. He decides that he's going to hike just a little longer. And this is when things start to get really bizarre for him. So Junior decides to head more into the Gila National Forest, and he's heading towards Diablo Range. Now, Granite Peak and Diablo Range are about 2 miles apart, and he has spent multiple, you know, days, months hiking this area, so he's not a stranger to it. He starts walking or hiking, and he gets about, like, I don't know, a half an hour into his new mission, his new hike. And he starts to smell this just really bad smell. He said that he expected that he was going to stumble upon, you know, a large, you know, deer or something in the vicinity. He said it smelled so bad that there was no way this was a small animal. He figured, you know, something large maybe died of natural causes, or, you know, a poacher or something. So keeps going, and he sees this kind of scuffle area, and we Zoom called today. It's really a great call, great person. So he gets to this, like, the trail is, you know, it's like your regular trail, but then there's this clearing, and there's more outcroppings. There's just a lot of outcroppings in this area. And he sees this kind of just like, it looks like there had been like a dance party out here. The sand, the rocks are kicked up. There's just a lot of debris, and it looked like a lot of activity had gone on in this area. So he's like, whoa, maybe there was like, maybe there was a poacher, and maybe it did, shoot, maybe he did shoot somebody, or not somebody, something large, and this person, cut it up here, or whatever happened. A bunch of stuff is going through his head. He's not thinking cryptid. He's not thinking anything as of yet. He's getting the chilies. Is what he called it. And I laughed when he said that, because, when you're talking to a grown adult, and I when I laughed, I said, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at how you said it, and he's just like, no, I understand. And, so he's like, man, this is weird. I probably should head back out. I probably should just, but curiosity kind of got the best of him, and he keeps walking. Probably 5 minutes go by, and there's some more like area that looked like it had been disturbed. Pretty much it looked like a fight had occurred. There's blood in the sand, and there's chunks of hair, meat. And he's like, what is going on? What, he's thinking now, I wonder if a mountain lion had come and killed a deer. And now he's getting like the real feeling of dread and nervousness, because now he sees there's blood, there's chunks of, hair and flesh, and just, this just disturbed area. Being an experienced hiker, rock climber, outdoorsman, he has, in his pack, he's got a bunch of stuff. It's just become second nature to him. He has like a small collapsible hatchet, and he keeps like Ziploc baggies in case it rains, and he's got to put like his Garmin thing in there, or his wallet or whatever, because he keeps his wallet with him in case he falls or something happens and he does die, so he can be identified. He ends up taking his fixed blade and taking a Ziploc baggie out of his pack and putting some of this bloody sand. It's not dirt, it's sand, and pebbles and stuff, and a chunk of this flesh in this bag. Zips it up, puts it in his bag. So now he's like, all right, I'm going to turn and head back. He turns and heads back, and he gets back to the first area where the disturbance was that he had seen. The initial area, not, this is where the blood was. He's going back to where, he had his break, back to the Gila Cliff Dwelling National Monument, where he parked. He's now 5 or 6 miles deep. So he's got another 4 hours. It took him 4 hours to get here. Probably less. He farted around a lot, he said. So he can get in and out of where he was in about 2. at a decent clip, you know, but he just really likes to look at stuff and hike. That's what he does. But he knows he's got a distance. He knows he's got time to travel. He keeps looking around because now he's like, is there a mountain lion around me? Am I going to get hurt? I said, well, why did you pick up the dirt in that flesh? And he said, you know, I don't know. I found it weird. It was definitely weird looking. It was strange. I wanted to show, you know, my dad. His dad is like him, a hiker, you know, outdoorsman, except he's a lot older now. And, you know, and he's got it in this sealed Ziploc, and it's on his back, and he can smell it it's permeating through his bag, you know. He gets to this location, and he keeps going. Well, he gets finally to where he had sat initially and had his power bar and water. Passes that, keeps looking, and about 5 minutes down the trail, he is like, all right, I'm far enough away. I haven't heard anything. I'm going to sit for a minute and kind of get my composure and really calm down. You know, he was walking at a good clip, so his balance was off. You know, so it was time to just sit, get his bearings, and get out after he calmed down a little more. He gets to this place where he's sat in many times. There's a big rock outcropping that he said looks like a chimney. It's a natural outcropping, but it looks like a chimney. You know, it kind of goes up, and there's these caves that are in this area people go spelunking there. He's been spelunking there. And they go deep into the mountains. So he's sitting there, and he hears this just kind of howl, and kind of like a whimpered pain. And he's like, what the hell is that? What, you know, and he's sitting there, he's listening, he's like, and he's looking around too, but he's listening because he's like, all right, now I know something's out here big. There's some predator. I can hear a growl, but I also hear a kind of canine-like howl of pain. What am I hearing? Maybe there's a coyote. Maybe whatever did that was a coyote, or, you know, possibly a wolf. So he's like, all right, I gotta go. I can't calm down. I've just gotta go. So he gets up and starts heading down this trail. Now, where the outcropping is, it would be on his left-hand side. And he's got to kind of curve around the trail, kind of the outcroppings here. So the trail kind of goes like this. And he's now walking at a better clip. He's scared. He's tripping, kicking rock, and just really his level of fear is just at max peak for him right now. As he kind of comes, he hears that growl howl again. And it's not a howl like a wolf or a coyote would do, like that. It's not like that. It's like this growl pitch, like pain whimpered. And he hears it. But now he can kind of hear. It's not on his right side. It's not in front of him. It's not behind him. But it's on his left side. Excuse me. And he looks over. And what he sees nearly stopped his heart. He saw movement, so he kind of got behind this tree and is looking. He's trying to be as quiet as possible. And what he sees is this large canine. He sees a muzzle, and it looks like it's on all fours, but it's not. Its back legs are long, dragging. He said this thing looked like, it was trying to get up, but he couldn't really see much of it because of his vantage point. So he moves a little more, and he now can see why this canine-looking creature is not getting up. Because there is this 5.5 foot emaciated-looking creature. Bald, white. Actually, he said it was like a light pink color. I'm not going to use the exact terminology he used, but no, I will. He said foreskin pink is what he said, and we both had a chuckle. And it's like biting this dog. He thinks it's a wolf at first. But he's like, this thing's huge. The dog man is now snapping back. It grabs the creature and flicks it with its arm and stands. And it's at least 7-8 feet. It's huge, he said. But it's not apexed. How it stood, it was hurt. And as that creature, the crawler, or whatever you want to call them, just don't call them a rake because we're not a creepypasta channel. As he flicked it, it didn't go far. It got up again, but then he notices there are two more with it. And they've surrounded it because he's got a better vantage, so he can see what is going on. And they're like slashing at this thing. It's growling, and there's blood. There's just chunks of flesh missing on this Dogman, and these 3 crawlers are savagely attacking it. At one point, one of the crawlers, the 2 jump on the Dogman. The Dogman is fighting these things. It is biting, but it's really not having any kind of luck. It's pretty much, he said, from where he first saw that attack zone, or where everything was just scuffled, he's assuming that was where they must have met up. And then there's another location, and now this location. So they must have been fighting here for a while, going through. And he's looking and like, what am I? This is real. At one point, one of them looks around. He doesn't know if it sees him, but he gets that feeling like it did see him. And how he described this creature, he said it was just this really pale looking, its eyes were like this blackish red. There were what appeared to be pupils, but the eyeball was red. They weren't glowing. It was just how he was looking at it. You know, he didn't see any white in this eye. It was just red with black pupils. And it kind of looked over in his direction and then turned and looked at the Dogman. And as it did that, all three jumped on the Dogman. He said they had large hands. Their hands were like long, not large like Andre the Giant, large, but long fingers. Just like really long, skinny, elongated fingers with what appeared to be claw-like appendages coming out. He said the fingers appeared to be, 6 inches long with like a 2-inch kind of claw thing off to the, off of them, off the tip. And they were a whiter color than its skin. And their teeth were, he could see their teeth as he looked at this, because it was, when it looked at him, it had its mouth open. It had like these elved ears. Completely naked. He didn't see any genitalia. He said, I did not see any genitalia. They weren't wearing clothes. They weren't, they weren't wearing like a bodysuit. They were just this weird nakedness to them. And when it turned and looked at him, it turned back. They all jumped on this creature. Like he said, there's no telling how long the Dogman and these things have been fighting, but he could tell when it stood up that it was on its last leg. It had lost too much blood. A few, he could see wounds on the creatures as well, on the crawlers as well. But when they jumped on it, he heard more growling. And then this just kind of whimper, very long, drawn out whimper, like when a canine dies. And he's now frozen in absolute fear because he's like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. I'm 5 miles away from civilization. I don't. And what he sees next is he sees 2 more of these creatures come out that are smaller, probably 5 feet. These are about 5.5, 6 feet. But 2 smaller come, and the 5 of them all kind of drag the Dogman into this cave that's near this outcropping. And the Dogman is dead. It's just dead. Tongue is hanging out of its mouth. There was just a lot of blood. He said the weirdest thing was there was no communication verbally or, I guess verbally would be the word. He couldn't hear anything. He couldn't hear them communicating to each other. They just moved as kind of like they knew what they were doing. And they dragged it into this cave in this outcropping. And he's standing there and he's like, I can't believe what I just saw. I need to get out of here. And I need to get out of here now. So he starts running. And he's tripping over rocks. He said he probably ran at breakneck speed for a half an hour. He was just winded, completely just drained. He stops, catches his breath, and pulls out the Garmin thing, looks, and he's like, I'm still an hour and a half away. He proceeds to catch his breath, and at a quick, not a run, he can't run anymore. He's drained. So he now is walking, kind of jogging, but walking at a good clip, not running. He had worn himself down, but as he's at a good speed, he kind of starts to feel like this, like something's watching him. He doesn't know. He's like, I honestly, Jeff, I thought it was because of what I just saw. You know, but then then my fears started to play. You know, he goes, I wondered if it was my head playing games on me. He goes, but, you know, I know I needed to leave as fast as I could. And as he's running, not running, but jogging, walking, what is that? Like, he keeps seeing shadows off to the side and on the left side of him. He doesn't see anything. It's like almost a glimpse of something in his periphery. And he's, you know, that makes him kind of go faster, but now it's really playing with his mental. Sorry. And as he's probably now a mile away, he's thirsty. He stops and gets his water out, starts to have a drink, and he hears this weird, almost high-pitched chirping. He's heard, you know, what, like fox and squirrels, the noises they make, and, you know, anything else native to this area he's heard. And it's nothing that he's ever heard. It's just this really strange kind of like chirp. He said that it almost reminded him of a bat, like when they're swarming around, but it had more of a bass to it, but it wasn't like deep. It was just deeper than what the bat noises are. They're like whatever, sonar or whatever that noise, whatever the proper word is. And he's like, you know, that's the only thing I could put it is what the sound bats make, but louder. The only thing he has is his knife and this flare gun. And he gets his flare gun out. It's like one of those, it's a 12 gauge flare gun. So he got like a 12 gauge shell in this flare gun, puts his water in his bag, and starts walking out. Like I said, he's got a mile left. He's now still catching glimpses of stuff in his periphery, and he's hearing this noise. And as he's about a quarter of a mile to the entrance, or where the Gila Cliff Dwelling National Monument is, he hears something off to his right and to his left, kind of clicking, chirping to each other. Loses it at that point. He doesn't see anything, but he loses it and just starts running. And as he's running, he's listening. You can hear his heart, you can hear his breathing, and he hears something in behind him in the woods. He said, Jeff, I don't know if I did really. He goes, or if it was just my imagination with fear. You know how fear plays that, like there's something behind you. He gets out and just practically drops and is breathing heavy, puts his flare gun away because there's obviously public there. Looks behind him, looks all around. There's nothing. The noises aren't there anymore. There's kind of any sound at all. He gets to his car and he does the only thing that he knows. He calls his dad and says, Dad, I need to talk to you. I've got to tell you something that just happened. And can you meet me? I don't want to come. I don't want to go to your house. I don't want to go home yet. Let's meet up at this diner and have some coffee and just, let's have a talk. He's a smoker sometimes, even though he's, an outdoors person. He's waiting for his dad, and he had, 2 or 3 cigarettes. And when he stopped at a store to get a pack of cigarettes, the guy's like, are you okay? Because his hands are shaking. And he then just, I'm fine, gets his pack of cigarettes, goes and meets his dad. And he tells his dad, he shows his dad what he has in the pack. The dad can smell it. Obviously they're in the diner. He didn't bring his backpack in the car. He tells his dad this whole experience in the diner. His dad can smell the smoke on him. He's like, are you smoking again? He's like, after this I bought a pack. I don't know, he doesn't like smoking, but he does smoke when he gets stressed. He goes, after what happened, I needed it. I needed to have it, come out to my car and let me show you what I have, and after they have their coffee, dad has lunch, dinner, whatever. He can't eat because he's spent. He's mentally and physically just beat. And they go out to the car and he pulls out his bag and shows his dad, and his dad's facial expression when he smelled what was in the bag, he could smell it in his car. It's just this smell of like death and like roadkill. There was no like urine or whatever. It was just this really rich smell of just something bad. They look and dad's like, what the hell? What? You can't go out there anymore. You can't do this. You can't. And he goes his way. The dad goes, and the dad calls him up later that night. His dad's on the phone and he says, Bobby, do you remember when we went to the cliff dwellings the Gila cliff dwellings. And, you know, this is hours later. And he said, yeah, I remember going there, you know. Why? What? And it's actually pronounced Mogollon, but the Caucasian pronounce it Mogollon. It's Mogollon, but it's pronounced Mogollon. Do you remember the cave paintings in the cliff dwellings when we had gone up there when you were a teenager? And he said, a little bit, but what's your point? He said there was paintings of these creatures, these red. There was actually paintings of like Native American. They were much different than these red kind of humanoid looking figures. The Native American or the Mogollon were much bigger in this depiction than these creatures, but they were, you know, fighting. You could see they were fighting. And there were, you know, pictures of caves and stuff like that. He goes, I think that's what you saw, or what the Mogollon drew on the caves. He goes, I thought about it. I kept thinking about it more and more, you know, after we left each other. And, you know, I was trying to put a name or a picture or something to this description that you told me. He goes, and for some reason I remembered, you know, us going there when you were a teenager, and I remember seeing this painting, and I thought it was so weird because I was like, well, is this, you know, them fighting off other tribes and stuff like that? And the person who was in charge of doing, you know, the guide or whatever that was describing everything had no idea. He said, honestly, I don't know what this depicts. Maybe it is them fighting off a warring tribe. But the depiction was so different than a human. Like the humanoid or human Mogollon depiction of themselves was, you know, like it looked like what a child would draw, but the depiction of these things were much worse. You know, like the hands were longer, the bodies were shorter, and they used like a red kind of chalk or whatever to draw, and then the Mogollon were done in like this blackish brown color. You know, they didn't have like blues and greens and stuff. Well, they did, but they didn't. You know, they used what they had, like what natural. But he's like, maybe that's what you saw, was this. And he's like, you know, I don't know what I saw. I don't want to talk about it, Dad. I can't talk about it anymore. So then he, you know, he forgot. He got home, just parked his car, got up the next morning to go into work, got in his car, and his whole car smelled of this fleshy hair tissue that he had in his backpack in a sealed freezer Ziplocky with the sand in it, this bloody sand. And so he took it out of his car, put the windows down, went inside, sprayed his car out, his car smelled for a good week. But he apparently has this sand and hair flesh mix still in his garage. I said, let's get it tested. Do you want me to pay for it? Let's split it out. Let's figure out a place in New Mexico right now to get it tested. I'll use my credit card. I don't care. I want to know what that was. I don't know. We're going to talk about it in the next couple of days of what he wants to do. But I never ever thought that I'd hear something so bizarre. The way he looked while telling me this, the fear in his eyes. And when he said the thing turned and looked at him, and he's like, Jeff, the eyes were he goes, I have nightmares. He goes, I have nightmares about the eyes staring back at me. He goes, what I saw was just horrific. He goes, but what really scared me the most was those eyes. And he said, I couldn't believe what I witnessed. These just alien looking, alien, not, he made sure, he said alien because they were so foreign looking. He said, a Dogman looks like a dog. A Bigfoot looks like a ape, kind of. He said, these things are just foreign. He goes, I can't even, he goes, they were just, he said, they didn't look, he said, what he saw didn't look like these videos or drawn depictions of a crawler where it has no ears, and it's just, he said, it did have an ear, and they were elf-like, and the eyes were this red that stuck out, their face was this pinkish, lightish, skin-colored pink, but the redness and then the black, and he still has nightmares. He said, I have nightmares. This is the second email I received from Bob in regards to some of the goings on around Gila National Forest and the Cave Arts area. There are mines out there, and Steph, who is a private contractor hired to protect rare earth minerals, mines, and such, there is a correlation or a connection to these creatures for some reason. Not all, not Dogman, not, just for some reason, the crawler-like creatures and creatures that are similar to Dogman are drawn to these. Maybe these are the creatures that come out of portals. I don't really know. But this is the second email that I received from Bob, and it's pretty interesting. All right, guys. So about 2 weeks ago, I shared with you an experience from a gentleman named JR or Junior. His dad, Bob, being senior. They both are from the Silver City area of New Mexico. Now, I will refresh a little bit on what occurred and also share a new encounter that Bob Sr. stumbled across just outside of Silver City. Now, a few of the subscribers that are in the comment section noted that they were from this region. And I hope that they're listening to this so they can verify exactly what I'm saying, because this is a horrific set of events that occurred in just a very small populated area. Silver City has the population of like 11,000. Excuse me. Now, Junior is an avid outdoors person. Not really a hunter, but a hiker, rock climber. Just really loves the Gila National Forest. Now, there's a place called Diablo Range in Granite Peak, and he was hiking in that area, which is just outside of the Our Lady of Guadalupe Benedictine Monastery, going northeast on 15. Now, he's Junior, or JR. He's about 6'4", 190 pounds, just a string bean with, pretty decent sized biceps, 31 years old, because of rock climbing. And he's very, very agile. On that day, he had a Garmin InReach, Garmin eTrex GPS, and a flare gun. He had heard about me via listening to other YouTube channels, Dark Waters, some creepypasta channels like Swamp Dweller and the Dread Family. So anyway, he was hiking in some outcroppings of rock and cave systems and stuff, and just relaxing. He'd been out for a while. I mean, we're talking miles from where he parked, which he had parked in the Gila Cliff Dwelling National Monument parking area and just proceeded to just go out. So he had been hiking all day. There are cliffs on, one side, just these beautiful rock outcroppings. It's really just your typical Western movie kind of setting, just this beautiful, beautiful area. Well, he had been sitting, proceeded to walk a little bit, and saw this mess, like a scuffled mess. And he proceeded to walk more, keep going, and he heard this strange noise, and it freaked him out. And he he's like, you know what? I don't know what that was, but I think it's time to go. I'm by myself. It's going to be getting dark in the next couple of hours. It's going to take me a little bit of time to get out. Let's just get out. So he goes and starts walking down this trail. As he kind of veers, he sees this large canine, cryptid canine, huge Dogman. He didn't know it was a Dogman at the time, but then he sees what we call crawlers, or what the movie Descent portrayed. And I really think the movie Descent possibly may have been a soft disclosure. I think Hollywood is really putting these movies out, like The Descent, Dog Soldiers, and other things like that. Not that they are 100% true, but as a soft disclosure, These creatures have been talked about for years. So it just makes sense to me. Anyway, he kind of ducks behind this tree and he watches these creatures just fight with this Dogman. The Dogman has the upper hand at one point, and then everything goes bad for the Dogman. The Dogman is killed, and two more of these creatures come out of this cave area and drag him back in. Or not back, but just drag the Dogman into that cave. JR, gone. Well, he hears noises and stuff as he's trying to get out, and he literally runs. And like I said, he's got a lot of stamina. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. He's just, 31 years old. If I could be 31 again. And he gets out and he's safe. He tells his dad shortly thereafter. His dad talks to him about the cave paintings in the Gila cliff dwellings. There's some very strange ones. There had been a couple of his dad kind of goes on this mission, like what did my son encounter? My son goes up there all the time. He's gone up there for years, and I'm not talking years like 5. I'm talking 20. The majority of his life was spent up there in this beautiful national forest. And honestly, please Google it, because it is true. I live in the Adirondacks, and I am partial to my home field being probably the most gorgeous park in the country. But there are a lot of other beautiful parks out there. And this is much different than where I'm from. So I really think it's gorgeous. I'd love to visit something like this, but it's beautiful. So come to find out, there had been some disappearances. There had been 2 women hikers that had seen something per police department, per the Silver City Police Department, that gentleman that is friends with Bob Sr. And that was the most up-to-date information I had until last night. I had planned on kind of maybe doing an hour-long live stream on last night on Hump Day to get you guys through until Saturday, until Saturday's midnight live stream. But I got a call, and that phone call was truly amazing. And like I said, guys, you can Google this. You can check the land out. And for those of you who are from this area, verify what I'm saying, because Bob and his son are both from this area. They have lived here all their lives. They're like 3rd generation Silver City people. So anyway, let's get into the next bit of information out of this location. All right, so like I said, Bob Sr. is now really invested in finding out more about this sighting of the Dogman his son had, but also these kind of strange crawler-looking creatures. Just really quick before we get into this next piece, I've been doing this for a long time now, and puzzle pieces, and that's what, for those of you who are new, I consider cryptozoology a big puzzle. And you may not agree with what I'm saying now, but don't disregard what I'm saying, because you might take something later on. And that's how I do it. I try not to push away anyone's theories, because this is a science based on theory. Now, for a while, I kind of entertained the idea of these crawler creatures maybe coming from portals, which I still do. I really still think it may be a possibility. But after researching Dulce and talking to Laura Eisenhower, researching Nightmare Hall, which if you don't know what Nightmare Hall is and you don't know what Dulce is, there are some uploads on my channel. It was a underground military installation, deep underground military base, and this one had a lot of experimentation per high-ranking military officials. There was a lot of experimentation with human and other kind of alien creatures, entities. And I believe possibly they created the crawler. And I hate saying this because it's creepypasta, the rake. That's what a crawler is. It resembles the rake. And so I think that genetically these things were created, spliced together by possible extraterrestrial DNA with human DNA and other kinds of just, Dulce is a place, they really did a lot of bad things there. I do believe they created super soldiers out of that location. And maybe these crawlers were just a mistake, but then they realized just how powerful they are and keep them around. Who knows? I don't know. It's just a theory. So anyway, Senior is very interested about all this because he recalls going up to the Gila cliff dwellings and seeing paintings of Native Americans fighting creatures and stuff. This area is like 6,000 years old. Like some of the wall paintings. It's a very ancient place. Well, he starts talking to everybody he can that he trusts. And he touches base with a gentleman that JR or Junior went to school with, who was a couple years older, but his police buddy directed him to talk to this guy. This is what was told to me via JR and Bob Sr. last night. This incident occurred right in the Silver City region, just south of Gila National Forest, in the Chino Mine. Now, it's a huge kind of, I believe, copper mine, and they have a guard shack. Well, 2 guards were doing night shift. It's very quiet. It's an isolated location. They're, listening to music, playing on their phones, just trying to get the night. We're talking desert isolation. There's got to be a guard because it's a mining area. So they're in the guard shack. Now, across from the guard shack, there's a road called the Santa Rita Mine Road. And just beyond that road is some desert area. It goes back to Hanover Creek, which kind of runs through it. So it's just this swath of land with just nothing, no houses, no shacks, just an empty desert piece of land. Well, they're in their shack, and JR's friend sees something, and he's like, what the hell is that? Pushes his buddy and says, there's a wolf out there dragging a kid. And they both, are looking like, they both have long rifles and pistols, AR-15. They raise up, they look through their scope, and it's a distance away and it's dark. So they can kind of make out that it's a very large wolf and what looks to be a 12-year-old child nude, dragging it by its shoulder in its mouth and walking towards the Hanover Creek area. So they jump out of the guard shack, they jump in their truck, and they kind of shoot across the road into this plain area, and they stop maybe 30, 40 feet from the creature. The Dogman, which was at quadruped stance, is now illuminated by the headlights. So they stop, they see how big this thing is, and they're just going, there's a kid, young teenager, because he's about 5.5 feet tall and naked, in this huge wolf. So they jump out of the truck. One of them's got their AR-15 trained on the creature, and he takes a shot. The other person had no idea he was going to take a shot, but he did. All of a sudden, the Dogman gets hit, blop, and stands up. The creature stood up on its hind legs and it had let go of the teenage boy, which was not, it was one of these crawler things. Stood up, and this is all a matter of seconds, stands up, and they're all like, holy crap, what are we looking at? What did we just shoot? And it kind of lets this just deep growl. They're 30 or 40 feet away. They can hear the growl. And they're just like, in their head, do we take another shot? Do we what? It has these ember colored eyes, these orange, just kind of fire colored eyes, just staring right at them. It kind of like lunges, but not really. Like, just does that step, like it's gonna step. And it's got this growl. As it's making that initial kind of step, like it's gonna come at these guys, this high-pitched, shrilly noise, much higher pitched than the Dogman growl, but it was a growl of its own, kind of like a kind of, not a howl, not like a woman screaming, almost nothing that these two guys have heard of, and really can't put a noise to, but it's just this high pitch kind of growling sound. Now, the Dogman at that point kind of looks over at where the sound is coming from and turns back and looks at the guys, and then it lets out this howl, drops to all fours, and runs kind of in a northwestern way up towards Hanover Creek, going toward Gila, which is a distance away, you know. So if it was going that way, we don't know. But it takes off. Look, so, you know, it's staring at these guys. Does that. Here's this just wretched noise. Turns, drops down, and takes off. So now the guys are watching this Dogman take off running quadruped. They turn back because in their mind, they're still thinking this is a young teenage boy or teenager nude. You know, they can't really tell what this thing is. They turn back and this thing is now staring at them on all fours. Now, human-like, if we were to stand on all fours, but the hips kind of, instead of how we would stand on all fours and look really kind of stupid, these hips were kind of up, you know, like burp, like that. Sorry for the sound effects. And it's staring at these two guys with these kind of pale white glowing eyes. Not an orange, not a red, but like this white. And it makes this kind of really strange noise as it turns to look behind it where the high-pitched kind of growl was coming from. And I say high-pitched growl because Bob Sr. was trying to explain it to me and he couldn't. He said the way the guy explained it to him was, if the Dogman or a dog were to growl and you raised that pitch. So where that noise comes from, and then these guys are now freaked out because they're like, this is not a person. What the hell are we looking at? All of a sudden, 3 more of these things come out from the darkness. And they are running quadruped towards this one that's now standing 40 feet in front of them. And they're about 5.5 feet tall because when they stop, they stand up. The one that was getting yanked around by the Dogman is still on all fours. And the 3 that came out of the darkness are now standing straight up next to it. They weren't thick. They were very skinny. And these 2 guards are freaked out. They both take a couple shots at these creatures. There was no noise made. As they took their shots, they didn't hit. There was no they were freaked out at that point. They were like, let's get that out of here now. They jump in their truck. They, obviously it's going to take them a second. By the time they have taken their long rifles off their sling and threw it in and shut the door, these things are now at the front of their truck. Doors are locked. They're in their truck, and these creatures are now jumping on the truck, trying to get in. Obviously they are not humans, so they don't know how to, but they're trying to figure out a way into the vehicle. They're slashing at the windows, the doors. They're grabbing the handles. They're, pulling on anything that they think can get them in this vehicle. They start the truck, start it up, and start kind of honking their horn. These creatures, as the truck starts, the horn honks, they kind of just jump away from the truck and very quickly run back the way they had come, where their other counterpart is, the one that was getting tossed around by the Dogman. And they kind of grab it to help it move, because it's not moved. It's still standing like in a quadruped position. The only thing that's running is these three. They kind of grab it and they disappear into the night. They go back to their guard shack. They're both quite shaken. They make their phone call to their boss. They, say, hey, something just came out from the desert area and attacked the truck. They pretty much told the head of the security what happened. We saw this. We don't know what it was. They were both told to take drug tests. The vehicle was looked at and kind of just everyone just shut up about it. This is about a couple years ago. Every once in a while, as they're doing their rotation, they have to drive through the mine area. And it's a pretty big place. It's almost like a small city. It's really big. So when they do their route through, every once in a while, and it's just not these two guards, all the guards who do night duty will see these kind of white illuminated eyes off in the distance, kind of watching them. And every once in a while from the guard shack, they'll look across that Santa Rita mine road and they'll see this eye shine coming, looking at them. Not coming at them, but looking at them. And not an ember colored eye. These white, kind of really piercing colored eyes. Senior told me that the security guard says the way these eyes, the whiteness of the eyes was what the freakiest, and he feels more afraid of, he said, I don't know what I'd do if I seen an orange, like that amber colored eyes, but I'm terrified of these things, whatever these things are. they are out there. There's obviously all these caves to hide in. But is there this battle going on between these creatures? You know, who knows? This is a couple years ago. JR's experience happened a month ago, roughly. So what and why? I mean, there's more than enough land. I'm assuming there's more than enough food. We don't know what these creatures eat. We know that Dogman we assume that they hunt animals, the deer and whatnot, but I don't know. It's a very strange, and it just adds to that essence of New Mexico having this very eerie kind of vibe to it, you know? You got Dulce, was it Taos or Teos, where those weird sounds are that make people sick. It makes sense that there'd be something out there. To me, it does. I don't know. But yeah, that's the latest update. I mean, you got to think about all of this stuff that Junior and Bob Sr. shared with me a week or 2 weeks ago, his encounter, and then the update with the missing people. You look up and see how many people went missing in Gila National Forest. And then there are 2 sets of families that 2 women disappeared and were later found alive and had a horrific experience to share. So these things are definitely out there, guys. They are definitely out there. All right, guys. So I hope that Bob Sr. In the near future, he's going to be going up to the Gila National Forest. He wants to go in the caves, take some photos for us, because there's not a lot of photos of the hieroglyphs, I guess you'd call them, on the walls or paintings. But like I said, this area is 6,000 years old. I mean, this is some of the oldest Native American artifacts in our country, you know, that are still, and it's so beautiful. Like, I've looked at a bunch of pictures when I was talking to JR and his dad last night, excuse me. And, you know, it really reminds me of like the Old West, like an old spaghetti Western, you know, with those outcroppings, and just a really beautiful place. But it's got that dark feel to it, and it makes a lot of sense that some bad stuff would happen there. And it's kind of weird because you don't really hear about all the missing people out of the Gila National Forest. And there you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed this second bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. After all, it is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. With that being said, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.